Good morning, WZRD Chicago listeners. This is 88.3 FM at Northeastern Illinois University. We have a guest in the studio today, and whom we will interview. She is Lin Prucher of the Rogers Park Food Co-op. Good morning, Lin. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine, and I'm so happy to be here at Northeastern.
So, what is the Rogers Park Food Co-op?
Well, we are an organization that is working to start a full-fledged grocery store in Rogers Park area that will be fully owned by members of the community.
So, will only the members of the community be able to buy products at that store, or will non-members also be able to go in and buy?
Oh, no, it's a full-fledged store for everyone.
Oh.
The difference is that it's not going to be owned by someone or have investors that are unrelated to the co-op. It will be owned by people like your listeners can join now and become an owner of the co-op, and that way we'll have it up and running sooner. It will be a full-fledged store to have a wide range of locally grown foods and products, and even a ready-to-eat foods.
Like a deli and etc.
Right.
Nice. So you have contacts already, right, for local farmers, etc.?
Oh, yes. We already have some contact with local farmers. We had an event called Meet the Farmers once, where people could come and actually meet the farmers themselves and ask questions.
Oh, nice. Did you how did you learn about the food co-op, or were you one of the founders?
Both.
Ah.
I actually read about it in a local newspaper. I think it was the North Star.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an article, it was about co-ops, and it didn't have much information, but it did mention the Rogers Park Food Co-op, because at that time, it was really just an idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept my ears open locally and asked questions if anybody heard about it, and eventually they did have a public meeting that I went to, and I went and I stayed. And so I became a founding board member.
Mm-hmm. How much did you have to pay to become a founding board member?
Oh, well, right now everything is volunteer. So the board members are not paid. It's all volunteer, work from the heart, from what you believe in. But to be an owner,
yes,
it's $250 to be an owner of the co-op. And that can be a one-time pay. I mean, it's only once. It's not like a buying club or a Costco where you're paying an annual fee. This is a one-time investment, and it can be paid in $50 monthly payments, $25 monthly payments, or even $10 monthly payments.
So why was it that you wanted to invest in the co-op? What convinced you?
Well, there were there's many principles in the co-op that really perked my ears. One is local food. I really believe that we should be resourcing as much as possible our food locally. We live in the Midwest, we have fertile land, and we have farmers that are essentially unemployed or certainly underemployed. And so it's good to give them an outlet for their foods. So that's one thing, locally grown and empowering other local businesses like microbreweries. We have in our area tofu that's made, and there's other things going on locally. Besides that, the co-op is owned by the community. That means that more money stays local. It's been studied and documented that this is actually true. And also, it's democratic. The idea is one owner, one vote. An owner cannot amass 10 votes, as perhaps could happen in a corporation where somebody could buy more than half the shares. and greatly influence. This is democratic and more equal.
Is this like one owner, one vote? I know that there are other food co-ops in the country. Are other ones set up the same way?
Yes, that's the whole idea with the food co-op. We want it to be fair for all, and the co-ops work together. There's actually a nonprofit organization called Food Cooperative Initiative that started just to help co-ops get started and help each other. And co-ops are cooperative. We help each other. There's an annual conference that was just held recently, and startup co-ops to help more co-ops get started. And their representatives come from as far as Alaska, Maine, Florida, and everywhere in between.
Is it spreading co-ops?
Oh, yes. Right now, there's more than 150 startup food cooperatives right now just in our country.
Yes.
But there are also a lot of existing, well-established co-ops.
What countries or what regions are these co-ops in outside the U.S.?
Outside the U.S.?
Yes.
Oh, they're all over in many countries. I lived in northern Italy. And in northern Italy, there's many different kind of co-ops. I've been in the big. It's just like a big, beautiful grocery store, but it's cooperatively owned, and they have a lot of different businesses that are cooperatively owned, so that they can support each other. They do business with each other. They help each other.
So a food co-op is a for-profit organization, right? Not a nonprofit.
Oh, yes, that's true. And in fact, the profits, once they start rolling in, partially would go to reinvesting to keep the co-op going, getting bigger and stronger and better, more services. But a portion of those profits then would be distributed in what is called patronage dividends to the owners of the co-op. And that means that the owners that shop more would get a greater dividend than the owners that shop less.
Oh, so the co-op tracks the purchases?
Yes, right. And they would track the purchases for the household. There'd be like not only the one person who has the vote, but another person in the house. So, when either goes sharing, the purchase would be recorded.
So do different co-ops collaborate together to buy products in bulk so that they're cheaper?
Yes, this can happen.
And what kind of products do this Rogers Park Food Co-op plan to sell?
Well, as I mentioned before, the idea is locally grown produce as much as possible. And then we would be working also with other local businesses like bakeries, and I mentioned tofu before, and microbreweries. We really want to inspire and help the local economy as much as possible, but it will be a full range store of products.
Yeah, that sounds very promising. I was wondering if there would be cleaning products, because I know that there are so many more sustainable cleaning products around. I was just thinking that the food co-op might sell those as well.
Certainly, and that would be good. You're right. We need to be careful of our environment, and you make me think of responsibility and ethics, because this is another thing that's very important to the food co-op. We want to pay our employees a just wage. We want them to have health insurance. We also want to look at the chain through which our products come. This is certainly not the case in many stores, and unfortunately much of what is available to us today. We have a responsibility to know what's the conditions of the people that are picking our fruit. Are we
Yes.
are we hampering somebody else's life by the purchases that we make? And I know that your students here at Northeastern are aware of these kind of values, because I see the young people coming up and being more aware of this.
So what advice do you have for students in if they want to participate, not participate in this food co-op, but exploring these options other than the status quo? This because it's still outside the status quo now. And do you have any advice for students about this?
Well, I think that it's important for students to think for themselves, and when they're reading information, to understand who is who's giving that information and what their intent is, because we get a lot of information that may be from corporations that have intentions that we're not necessarily thinking of. I think the food industry and many other industries have become corporations that are just interested in profitability, and we presume that the foods products have been tested and are good for our health, but that's not always the case.
So are there jobs available? I know that this food co-op hasn't been established so that you could hire, but are there other food co-ops maybe that students could apply for to just explore and then understand what's going on, and maybe work at a food co-op permanently, find something that they like?
Yes. Well, right now in the Chicagoland area, there actually is one food co-op that's alive and well and has just expanded last year. It's called the Dill Pickle Co-op. It's in Logan Square. It's just a little bit north on Milwaukee Avenue from the Logan Theater. And they were established, let's see, it took about 5 years, in 2009, I believe. So they're up and running. And the students could also volunteer for, or employees at Northeastern could also volunteer for the Rogers Park Food Co-op, which could also give them experience, because we have areas of communication and finance, organization, event planning, outreach, and it can be either skills that they already have and would be like to work with people who are active in the community, or they might just be personable. They can work either behind the scenes or directly with people. We often do tabling at events or at farmers markets or with different organizations. And the more people we have that are able to speak with the public, because the public is unaware greatly about what even a cooperative is and a food cooperative. We found that many of our first members are those that have actually experienced food co-ops. They maybe when they went to school, or they've even worked at food co-ops elsewhere, so they know what a great thing it is.
So you actually hire interns? Are they they're more or less are interns, or it's just a volunteer position from the students?
Both can be arranged.
Okay, paid or unpaid?
Unpaid at this time, because we're just starting up and we're trying to make the most with the money that we have received from the investments.
Do you know how many members there are in the Dill Pickle Food Co-op?
They started with 400 members, and they now have about 2,500 members.
Okay. So I know that the Rogers Park Food Co-op just reached the 300 member mark.
That's right.
And you're aiming for 450?
Yes, we're aiming for 450 this year. And then we want to kick off our site search so that we can find the most appropriate location in our general area for this great food co-op to be able to get started in serving local people.
So how does the Rogers Park Food Co-op build its brand and organization besides gaining members?
Well, we let me
Well,
see.
outreach, like what you're doing now, is part of it.
Right. So we talk to people. We talk to organizations. We have had articles in magazines. We've done other radio interviews. So it's meeting with the people.
Do you have? Does the co-op have any other funding besides memberships?
No, at this point in time, it's memberships or there can be donations. We can receive money through the Rogers Park Business Association so that it is a donation that's tax deductible and is used for the starting up process.
So you said that the food co-op collaborates with some other community organizations, such as what, and what do you do?
Well, we've worked with Loyola University. We've had joint programs with their nursing students. We've shown films at relative to food production at Loyola, and we're in contact with other organizations like the Ethiopian Community Center.
Oh, nice.
We've been talking with them. We worked with the 10,000 Villages in Evanston. And we're interested in reaching more organizations. So if any of your listeners, students, or other employees, or anyone else here in the Northeastern community has an idea or is in an organization, we'd be happy to come and speak so that we can let more people know about it. The Historical Society in Rogers Park we've worked with.
That's good. Yes. Well, we'll see what we can do. Hopefully, you'll be able to come to Northeastern maybe and speak at an event. We love that.
Oh, we'd be happy to.
So, what is a good strategy for finding a co-op space?
Well, we've already done a pre-market study. We first of all, as board members and other the interested people in the co-op, have gone to be educated at many conferences, and we've even brought in some people. So first of all, you have to learn to know what you don't know. We will be relying partially on experts in the field. Like I said, we did a pre-market study. As we get closer to the site search, we will do a more formal market study to actually identify the best areas in the community where it would be a most successful start. Because after all, like you pointed out before, this is to be a for-profit, full-fledged grocery store.
And you will remain in Rogers Park no matter where the site is?
Well, our catchment area we perceive as North Edgewater, South Evanston, and also West Ridge. So all of those areas would include Rogers Park for its catchment area.
Okay. So what support do the City of Chicago and other government agencies give the food co-op, if any?
Well, we wish we could say a lot, but from what I understand, there's more support in more rural areas than there is in the city. So other than wishing us well and thanking us for what we're doing, I think we have to really rely on the people of the community to make this happen.
And that's what the Del Pico Food Co-op did too, and they were successful. So.
Oh yes, and not only that, even nearby in Milwaukee, the Outpost Food Co-op now has 4 locations, and they make about $50 million worth of business every year. So that just gives you an idea of how successful co-ops can be.
How long have they been operating to be so well established now?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question, but I would say that it takes it takes a while.
Of course.
But it's not uncommon that a food co-op starts out as one, as one, and then potentially expands itself, and then potentially starts at another location in their general area.
Mm-hmm.
So there's room for growth. Really, it would be wonderful to have a food co-op in every neighborhood. Power to the people.
Yes. Well, thank you, Lynn. What is your contact information for the Rogers Park Food Co-op so that our listeners could contact you or the food co-op, the Rogers Park Food Co-op, for more information?
Well, it's real easy. You can go to the website, rogersparkfoodcoop.com. The co-op is COOP. Or you can email info@rogersparkfoodcoop.com. We also have a Facebook page. You can also write to me directly, lin.rpfc@gmail.com. And we're glad to hear from everybody.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
Oh, I have one more thing to say.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
This Saturday, April 7th, we're going to have a meeting at 10:30 a.m. At the Rogers Park Library, which is at 6907 North Clark Street on the second floor. There'll be coffee, tea, and bagels, and we'll be giving another introduction to the food co-op and the opportunity to ask questions and to sign up to volunteer if you're interested or just learn more. Bring your friends. You can sign up for this online, but if you haven't signed up, come anyway. You'll just have to share a bagel.
Okay. For online, does that mean the website?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Lynn, thank you so much. This is WZRD Chicago, 88.3 FM, and we have been speaking with Lin Prucher of the Rogers Park Food Co-op. Again, thank you so much, Lynn, for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.